All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, with the start of the 2020-2021 NBA season right around the corner, the race is on in the Western Conference to see if anyone can dethrone the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, there are plenty of questions for a lot of teams coming into this NBA season. You look at the Lakers, how much longer will LeBron James be able to dominate at this level? We saw this guy come into the NBA in 2003. He's been a dominating force for so many years, and you just have to wonder how much more wear and tear, can his body take. We saw him team up with Anthony Davis to win the NBA championship this past season, and they are looking to repeat. You look at some of the other clubs in the Western Conference. The Los Angeles Clippers can no longer blame Doc Rivers. We saw the Clippers come into last season with so many expectations. They got to the playoffs. They had to work for their first-round victory over the Dallas Mavericks. They then built a 3-1 series lead in the second round of the playoffs over the Denver Nuggets, only to collapse. We saw Doc Rivers and the Clippers part ways, and then the finger-pointing began. It all starts with their two-star players in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Are these guys going to be locked in and dialed in this season? I'm not sure. They better be, especially with Paul George. He had that disappearing act in the playoffs. Also, we just saw him receive a massive extension. Why, I don't know. But it's a situation where are they going to step up? The Clippers still lack a starting point guard. They also lost Montrezl Harrell to the Los Angeles Lakers, which will be big. I know that the Clippers brought in Serge Ibaka, but I don't think he's going to be able to fill the void that Harrell had. You look at the Denver Nuggets, who are looking to build off of last year's run to the Western Conference Finals. And this team had a lot of confidence, and they played well all season long. Don't get me wrong. But beating the Clippers really gave them the confidence. And I think they want to try to build off of that and coming into this season to show that last year was no fluke. You look at Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, one of the better 1-2 combos in all of the NBA. We are seeing the emergence of the youngster in Michael Porter Jr., who is finally starting to be healthy. And for head coach Michael Malone, he really has his finger on the pulse of this club. You look at Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks. They showed that they are building something. But for me, with the Mavericks, we know what Doncic can do, but it still comes down to the health of Kristaps Porzingis. You look at Donovan Mitchell and the Utah Jazz. The Jazz are always going to be a formidable team. They have Mitchell and they have Mike Conley in that backcourt, and then they recently picked up Bogdan Bogdanovic, which is another perimeter shooter to place around Mitchell. In regards to the Memphis Grizzlies, will Ja Morant be able to avoid the sophomore slump? He showed last year that he is a real deal and he is going to be a building block for the Memphis Grizzlies, and they definitely want to take the next step here in this season and try to get to the postseason. You look at Zion Williamson and the New Orleans Pelicans. The Pelicans are loaded with young talent, and now they want to try to see if they can find a way to take that next step and get to the postseason. The same thing can be said for the Phoenix Suns, as they're going to be looking to end their playoff drought, especially now that they have veteran point guard Chris Paul to go along with sharpshooting Devin Booker. Then there is a saga that is the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets have allowed this James Harden thing to play out too long. The Rockets are asking for the world in return for Harden, and honestly, they're not going to get it. And at this point, the longer that Harden remains on the Rockets roster, the bigger of the distraction that he is. We've seen the Rockets already trade Russell Westbrook to the Washington Wizards for John Wall. So now you have John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, and James Harden. All three of them together is not going to work. I don't care what anybody says, even with a new head coach and Steven Silas. But for the Rockets' sake, you know what? Just move on and, just cut your losses and let everybody start fresh. You look at it, you have some teams that are definitely rebuilding, like the Oklahoma City Thunder. I want to see what's going to happen with the San Antonio Spurs in regards to LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan. Both of these guys have contracts coming up. And you just have to wonder, the Spurs they look like they're in like limbo right now. They're not rebuilding, but they're still trying to compete. But it's a situation where, you know what? looking at the long term with expiring contracts, you can get something back for both Aldridge and DeRozan and build towards the future, because it's really going to be tough for the Spurs to make the postseason this year. You look at the Oklahoma City Thunder with Al Horford. I know that they acquired him in a trade with the Philadelphia 76ers. He still does have several years on his contract, but it'll be interesting to see if a playoff contender, whether it be in the West or the East, would be willing to pick him up. Then how much of a factor will the Golden State Warriors be? You look at the Warriors, of course, last year was brutal for them with all of the injuries, and now they're going to be without the services of Klay Thompson once again. You still have Steph Curry. You have a situation now where you picked up Kelly Oubre. You still have Andrew Wiggins. You have Draymond Green, and of course James Wiseman, the rookie in the middle out of Memphis. So I think this Warriors team might not be a championship caliber team, but they are definitely going to compete, and they'll definitely be better than what they were last year. So right now, the way I see things playing out, I still see the Lakers as the team to beat in the West. I think they finish with the best record. I think the Nuggets are the second best team, followed by the Clippers at 3, Utah at 4, and Dallas at 5. But on the second part of it, this is where things are going to get tricky. Right now, I do have the Rockets penciled in as a 6 seed for the playoffs, but I think a lot of that placates on what happens with James Harden. I think that the Rockets have the talent to be better than the 6th seed, but I think the Rockets are going to allow this James Harden saga to play out more than it should. Ultimately, I think a deal will get done, and if a deal does get done to send James Harden out of town, I don't see the Rockets being a playoff team unless they get something back as far as like a real big deal, and I doubt that's going to happen. But after that, things are going to get real tricky, because it's going to be a fight for those last couple of playoff spots in the West. You look at Portland, you look at Golden State, you look at Phoenix, you look at New Orleans and Memphis. I think all of those clubs are going to be in for a battle to get those last spots. You look at Portland with Damian Lillard, and they are still a competing force, and I don't care what anybody says. Veteran small forward Carmelo Anthony still has something to prove in this NBA. We've talked about Golden State. We've talked about Phoenix. We've talked about New Orleans and even Memphis. Ja Morant is the real deal, and I think he's coming to show that last season was just no aberration. This guy is going to be a bona fide player in this league. I think Oklahoma City will be the worst team in the Western Conference. They are definitely in rebuilding mode. The Minnesota Timberwolves have the talent, but with the likes of Karl Anthony Towns, you know what? He's one of those guys. Give him his 20 points a night, give him his $25 million, and he's good to go, which is why they don't compete. The Sacramento Kings, they look good on paper, but I'm not sure if they have enough to take that next step. And I talked about the San Antonio Spurs. They're still going to be tough, but this is a franchise that is definitely in limbo. So right now, I still say the Lakers are definitely the team to beat. I want to see what trades go down, but you look at clubs like the Nuggets. Denver definitely has something to prove. The Clippers have something to prove. Will they do it? I'm not sure. Utah is still going to be formidable. Don't sleep on Dallas. Portland, they're going to be in the mix, as will Golden State as far as making the playoffs. And I think it'll be a big move for the Phoenix Suns if they are finally able to end that playoff drought. But it won't be easy with the likes of the Pelicans and the Grizzlies in the West. So things are definitely going to be tough. It's going to be a battle, and more than usual, because there's only 72 games in the regular season this year, as opposed to the 82 that we've been accustomed to seeing for so many years. But I will say this, the battle will be on. We're going to see a lot of young, scrappy teams fighting to get to that postseason. So buckle up, because the excitement and the action of the 2020-2021 NBA season is going to be fast and furious, and it's right around the corner. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to thank all of the subscribers out there. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There is also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. Take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.